Today, we're going to talk about a real pioneer, an Indian chemist who could look at the flowers in her garden and see a whole world of life-saving medicine hiding inside. This is the absolutely incredible story of Dr. Asima Chatterjee. I mean, think about that for a second. How can a simple flower lead to a life-saving drug? It sounds almost like magic, right? But this was the central focus of her entire life's work. How do you actually get from a plant to a powerful cure for something like epilepsy or malaria? Well, let's find out.
So, let's go back in time. We're in Calcutta in the early 1920s, and this is Asima Mukherjee. As a young girl, she wasn't all that interested in the things other girls were doing. Nope. She was completely fascinated by the leaves, the flowers, and the roots in her garden. And lucky for her and for the world, it was a passion her father actively encouraged.
Now, you have to understand, this was so against the grain for the time. Her father didn't just teach her the names of flowers, he taught her to see the complex chemistry within them, that nature wasn't just something pretty to look at, it was a library of chemical compounds. And that one simple idea, it set her on a path that would literally change the face of Indian science.
Okay, so that early curiosity quickly turned into a serious ambition. She decided to pursue a formal education in science. But this journey was, well, it was filled with some huge challenges. She was stepping into the world of chemistry, a field that was, let's be honest, almost exclusively a man's world.
But just look at her academic path. It was nothing short of incredible. She excelled at every single stage, and it all led to this really historic moment. In 1944, she became the first Indian woman to earn a doctorate of science from an Indian university. I mean, that is a monumental achievement, not just for her, but for the whole country.
And she wasn't just brilliant, she was completely relentless. Her teacher said she was this quiet, disciplined student who never missed a lab session. And get this, she studied under absolute giants of science, people like P.C. Ray, who's known as the father of Indian chemistry, and S.N. Bose, from the Bose-Einstein statistics. She earned their deepest respect through sheer hard work and dedication.
All right, so her formal education was done, but her real work, her life's passion, was just getting started. And that was unlocking the chemical secrets hidden inside India's incredible wealth of medicinal plants.
The field she would go on to master is called natural products chemistry. So, what is that? Put simply, it's like being a detective for nature. It's the science of finding those active ingredients in plants, the alkaloids, the coumarins, and figuring out how we can use them to create actual modern medicines. And this right here, this is what made her a genius. See, at a time when a lot of modern science just dismissed traditional knowledge as, folklore, Dr. Chatterjee saw it as a roadmap. She built a bridge. She took the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, which already knew what plants could heal, and she applied rigorous modern chemistry to prove why they worked and how to make them even better.
Her method was just so elegant and logical. First, she would identify a plant that was well known in traditional medicine. Then, through just painstaking work in the lab, she would isolate the one specific chemical compound that was responsible for its healing powers. And finally, she developed that compound into a standardized, reliable drug that doctors could prescribe.
And the results? They were absolutely revolutionary. Her research led to one of India's very first anti-epileptic drugs. She pioneered new treatments for malaria. But what's so important to remember is that this wasn't just some abstract research. Her discoveries were actually adopted by pharmaceutical companies. They provided affordable, homegrown cures for millions of people at a time, when imported medicines were just way too expensive. She saved lives.
But Dr. Chatterjee's impact wasn't just confined to the laboratory. Her influence as a teacher, as a mentor, and as a role model for the next generation, well, that was just as profound.
As the head of the Department of Chemistry, she was a total legend. Her students still remember her, drawing these incredibly complex molecular structures perfectly, just by hand, and then explaining them using simple metaphors in Bengali. She didn't just teach chemistry, she taught patience and perseverance, and she inspired countless young women to follow in her footsteps.
And you can bet she faced constant skepticism in that male-dominated world. There's a famous story where a male colleague suggested that maybe women were too delicate for lab work. This was her response. Chemistry tests patience more than strength. I have both. How perfect is that? It just captures her quiet determination and her unshakable confidence.
And we really shouldn't forget that her path was not easy. Not at all. She often worked in underfunded labs, having to improvise with her equipment. She faced constant gender bias in a very conservative environment. And she balanced all of this while being a mother. Her success was also a huge testament to her partnership with her husband, who was a brilliant physicist and one of her biggest champions.
So, when you put all of this together, how do you even begin to measure the impact of a life like this? Well, her legacy continues to bloom today, in university lecture halls, in modern laboratories, and of course, in the millions of lives she helped save.
Eventually, her brilliance was recognized at the absolute highest levels. 1975 was a huge year for her. She received the Padma Bhushan, which is one of India's most prestigious civilian honors. And beyond that, she was also nominated to the Rajya Sabha, which is the upper house of India's parliament. She used that position to become a powerful voice for science education and research funding.
So what did she leave behind? Well, it's pretty immense. She completely shattered the myth that science was a man's world. Her research directly helped millions of people, and she cleared a path for every scientist who came after her. It's really no wonder that Google honored her with a doodle on what would have been her 100th birthday.
You know, I think this quote just sums it all up perfectly. She started her journey as a young girl, just curious about the flowers in her father's garden, and she ended up changing the entire chemistry of Indian science. Dr. Asima Chatterjee didn't just make medicines, she truly made history. So if you found Dr. Chatterjee's story as inspiring as we did, we would absolutely love for you to become a part of our community here.
The best way you can support what we do is to subscribe to the channel, give this explainer a like, and maybe share it with someone you know who'd find it interesting. It really truly helps us bring more of these incredible stories to light.
And finally, we really want to hear from you. Who are the other unsung heroes of science and history that you think deserve their own explainer? Let us know your suggestions in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.